All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to what is, I believe, only our second Google Earth episode. Today, we are going to go all across the Earth and look at least for the large ones, not literally every single one, but we're going to look at all of the oil and gas fields, or at least all of the decently sized ones that I have marked and mapped out. To start off with, we're going to zoom in here on shale's most frequent headliner, the Permian region. As you can see, it covers quite a bit of area here in western Texas and southeastern New Mexico. It is absolutely enormous, and portions of it actually extend down here a bit too, but they haven't actually started drilling in there yet. So we're going to gradually zoom in, and you're going to start to see, you may be able to see already, it looks kind of fuzzy there and there, all over the place. Those are individual dots that you're going to start to see more clearly. Hopefully, I'm not sure how good of a resolution you guys will be seeing this on, but there you can see those lines and streaks. Those are rows and columns, tens of miles long, of these little dots. These little dots are, in fact, you can probably see them there, especially now. These little dots are about 1 acre sized patches of land upon which the shale wells are. And so as we zoom in, you can see just how many there are and how packed together they are, and just how much raw space and area that this operation is taking up. So let's zoom in even further. Yeah, now you can really see it clearly. We keep zooming and zoom in. We'll go in on this area, I guess. See, look at all of them. Each one of those is a cleared out land area with a well sitting on it. Or some of them might have just been cleared and don't actually have a well on them yet. And here's one you can actually see the several drilling rig units. So this area is going to have, it looks like 3 wells on it, but they're in the process of drilling them at the moment. And scattered around them, you can also see here these pump jacks or horsehead oil wells. The I guess you could say old school original oil wells. And here you can see a tank battery system. Because I know one of my commenters deals with these a lot and is usually talking about them. So yeah, just look at all this. It's about times 4 of whatever that is, so that's about 36 miles across. Look at all this. 44 miles across, 60 miles. And it starts to turn into just kind of a blurred fuzz, but you can still basically tell that it's all there. And it's not as tightly packed up in southeastern New Mexico yet. You can see like that area there. That area is starting to be, so is this area. But they're drilling everything in like rows and columns. And so, they'll drill a few rows, then another few rows, and, slowly this whole area will begin to just be filled up. Oh, and those little gas pump symbols, I put those there and in various places to represent depleted fields. So hopefully that massive display out in western Texas might have been some shock and awe for some of you. Now out here in the Gulf of Mexico, I use the traditional just yellow thumbtacks to mark the locations of actively producing offshore fields. And whether it's mining or whether it's an offshore field or an onshore field, I use these blue flags to mark places where they've discovered a field but are not yet drilling it, And here are all of the Mexican Gulf fields. This one in particular, I just bunched up some of them here to mark like the general region and shape of it. Cantarell is Mexico's largest offshore field. I forget at the moment, like I don't remember off the top of my head how large, at least its original size was. I'm pretty sure it's over halfway done with. Now, as you can see, we're up here in my state of Alaska. I live down around there, by the way, in the middle, a city called Fairbanks. And we're going to look at Alaska's infamous Prudhoe Bay. Now, Prudhoe Bay and other far northern oil and gas operations look pretty different than ones down in temperate climates. There's not a bunch of little patches here, you know, with pump jack wells on them. Instead, up here, what you'll find is not really clearing up the image too well, unfortunately, but you can see the pipelines here, and they all connect to these little things. If it actually cleared up and showed you, you would actually see that those are rows of what are called well houses. They're literally just basically cube-shaped, heated, insulated buildings that the actual pumps themselves are inside of, for hopefully obvious reasons that, you know, this is the Arctic, so during the winter temperatures, especially up here in the region of Alaska called the North Slope, up here where Prudhoe Bay is, during the winter temperatures can get down to negative 60, 70, even negative 80 sometimes. So the pumps are kept in insulated well houses, which are formed in rows on these much larger than 1 acre patches that are scattered around here and across a few dozen miles. And then over here you have another small one. You have some really small depleted ones offshore. Well, not really that far offshore. You have another tiny one over there. And we have some new discoveries here that are in the process of being drilled. And here, this is Smith Bay, in which a huge discovery was just made. And the discovered field has been named Smith Bay, because creativity. Oh, also down here, but here, this little country called Guyana, offshore here, ExxonMobil's been discovering fields left and right. And here we have Venezuela. Rich in resources, but riddled with problems and political corruption. Venezuela's main output has been from this particular supergiant field here called Bolivar. And zoom in, we'll be able to see it is both offshore in this lake and onshore. It's absolutely massive. And you can see here some massive storage tanks and some of the harbors for their tankers. Each one of these things out here is an offshore platform. I'll wait till it, not sure if it's gonna actually clarify for us. There's some places here on their offshore operations where it'll actually like give you a really clear image, and other places it keeps it blurry. And so most of those dots are offshore platforms or tanker vessels. We can look at here. You can see pretty similar to what you saw in Permian out in Texas, because the field isn't exclusive. It extends underneath both the land and the lake here, and it's decently long. It's 30 to 40 miles long, kind of ovoid, and it doesn't just dip into the land there like that. It also there's also a bunch of offshore platforms out here. I just never got around to marking those particular ones. But here, this section up here offshore, especially this little dip and divot, here's where Venezuela's true oil wealth actually resides. Under a mile of ocean water, and then under a further 2 miles of subsea rock, lies the Orinoco Belt. Extra heavy oil buried deep under here. It's essentially basically the same as the Canadian tar sands, except, under 2 miles of subsea rock, under a mile of ocean water. And Venezuela is barely even touching that yet. Now out here, we head over to the Middle East. You've got most of northern Africa has decent producing amounts. Algeria had a nice gentle peak, and they've been on their terminal decline for several years, but it's really gradual. Libya, unfortunately, has been all over the place because of the civil war. Huge portions of Egypt's oil is almost depleted. Most of their onshore stuff is almost empty. Their remaining oil production is coming from joint oil and gas fields offshore here. Now here, right here, this is the absolute motherlode. This is Ghawar, the world's arguably only mega giant oil field. The Ghawar is arguably 150, maybe even up to 175 miles long. It is absolutely enormous. Estimates now are that in its early days, when it was first discovered, Ghawar probably had around 170 billion barrels in it, in a single field. Now, we zoom in and look at the setup of Ghawar. It's a bit different. It's not a bunch of pump jacks on little patches. These supergiant fields out in the Middle East are actually made up of these clusters you'll see every few miles of basically what I'm just calling super pumps. Like at each individual one of these clusters of super pumps, hundreds of thousands of barrels a day is surging up from deep underground. Granted, nowadays, they're only maintaining that high level of output from their fields by pumping millions of gallons an hour of seawater down into the field in other locations to keep the internal pressure up. So we have one cluster there. Go down and examine some others here. Wait for it to clear up. No, there's not that many on this one. But some more up here. Actually, there's some there. I just apparently didn't put a marker right next to them. Oh, here we have like a triangle. A nice triangle. Ooh, there's a plane taking off outside. I don't know if the microphone picks that up or not. Here's a nice little triangle set up because, Illuminati. If I had my webcam on, I'd be, making the symbol right now. And it's actually, no, I don't think that's not a cluster of pumps. That's more like just a work camp setup. Here they are. Here's our nice little super pump cluster. Look at all these pipelines. This nice, awkward, unorganized spider web going all over the place. And just 150 miles of that stuff up and down. This one absolute just behemoth oil field. What? Let me recorrect us. There we go. And then Qatar here, their primary oil producing field is Duqan over here on their western shore. But the actual impressive thing for Qatar and for Iran is the Pars gas field. So you can see a lot of their infrastructure for here. and all up and down over the place. The Pars gas field, politically divided into two segments, but really it's basically one field. Oh, and here's their massive tanker port. The Pars gas field is larger than anything you could possibly imagine. And out here we have some drill ships. We have an offshore platform there you can see set up. Oh, it actually gets clearer here than down in Venezuela. Yeah, anytime you see on the ocean sudden patches like this, those are patches where Google Earth actually clears up the surface and shows you like a proper image instead of just their generic ocean background layover. That will usually mean that there's stuff on the surface. And here's Iran's onshore Pars operations base. Yeah, the Pars gas field is pretty absurd. I believe they said the estimates now are that at its initial discovery, it probably had between 1 and 1.5 quadrillion cubic feet of natural gas in a single deposit. All pipelines and liquefied natural gas tanks. But yeah, the Pars gas field literally kind of just forms a big blob like this here, completely extending between the northern tip of Qatar and this southwestern little ridge. It's absolutely huge. Here you have the few fields of the United Arab Emirates, which is the first of the Persian Gulf nations that's going to no longer be able to keep up its plateau. Now we move on to Central Asia, and we have two main players. We have Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan. Now, Turkmenistan's main thing is natural gas. They have a huge amount of untapped natural gas still, mainly because for the longest time it was just sitting there because it's so far inland and so far removed from the market that it needs thousands and thousands of miles of pipelines to actually get it somewhere. But now they're starting to develop it. As you can see, they're one of the massive operating centers there with all the pipelines and pumping infrastructure. And there's a smaller one there and some tiny ones there. Really huge setup here, though. Here you have the big one. And you just look at setups like these, and you sit there and you imagine just how much sheer volume of massively flammable methane and ethane are just surging up through these pipelines at any given second. Here we have Tengiz up here in Kazakhstan, which kind of has a similar setup to the Middle East. It's mainly a tighter collection of super pumps. And you can see, again, dense overlay of pipelines. Some tank batteries over there, bigger ones than normal. Ooh, and a rail yard. And see this huge rail yard here. All these trains with tanker cars on them, loading up. Get that petroleum out. And offshore here, I think there's supposed to be a K in there. I think it's Kashkagan, but I'm not positive whether there is a K or not. But that's an absolutely huge field out there. None of these are anything near the size of Ghawar by any means. But scarily enough, Ghawar actually, even at its original size, still pales in comparison to the Orinoco Belt offshore of Venezuela. But regardless, we move on. Now, Russia has their fair amount. Most of it is clustered around here, around where a lot of these inlets are, and a lot of these river deltas head out to the Arctic Ocean. Though further inland, all up and around here, they actually have a huge amount of shale. Here on this peninsula, they have quite a few natural gas fields. I'm pretty sure the peninsula is mostly natural gas. And you can see already that it looks very similar to Prudhoe out in Alaska, because this is also obviously the Arctic, so they have a pretty similar setup where everything's clustered together onto these larger patches, and these are probably the pump houses, though I'm not entirely sure. I have some more out here, but Google Earth doesn't want to clear that up, apparently, for some reason. Google Earth discriminates against Russians. Another line up here. The pump houses. Come on, Google. What do you have against Russia? Alright. Now you can see there the whole scattering of them. And it goes this far up here. I believed there was some more up here. Or are those just... yeah, those are just all the colored lakes. And they have Jamberg there. It's pretty similar. And Orangoi. Then over here, here's where the oil is. There's actually some more over there I didn't mark yet, but come in here, and we got us some massive storage tanks, whole lot of piping. You actually look in and see that it's not like actually one thing. You can see individual lines, and so it's actually usually dozens of pipes all just right up against each other like that. Some more out. Actually, that looks like they're setting up for some new operations on that patch over there. Now, one of the larger producing areas I don't actually have marked up is all that offshore stuff out in the North Sea. And whoa, let me correct that alignment. And actually the UK and Norway are starting to drill out in this region here, so they're actually starting to push up in towards the Arctic, as most of their older fields down here in the North Sea are well on their way down to depletion. Out here, oh no, that's not the one. Where is it? There it is. This is China's main player. Granted, it's on its terminal decline phase. This is Daking. This is their largest field, conventional field at least. And once it clears up a little, again, you can see all the little dots. They're still kind of fuzz right now. There we go. Then they start to clear up the further you zoom in. So this is Daking. Let's get closer. Some large storage systems there. You can see the shadow there of the pump jack, as it's actually basically facing straight up towards the satellite. But oh, that shadow is even better. So each one of these is pump jack, the old-fashioned horsehead oil well. It rocks back and forth. And here they are, tens of thousands of them, spread all over. As Daking is pretty big, and have to hit the alignment button again. Out here in the now infamous South China Sea, you can see all this ocean surface that Google Earth now actually shows you the full detail of. Well, that's because of all of this. I even labeled it LOL infrastructure ready. These islands are not natural. China has constructed these to put all of its stuff on, its workers. They even have like they even have like tennis courts and basketball courts and stuff. Places for the for the workers like leisure time. They're moving everything out here. They're getting fully ready to start it up. Actually, they already have several drilling ships out here. Zoom in. Wait, was this a drill ship or? Oh no, I think that was just a tanker. I know one of these was an actual drill ship. Like you could see the the column coming up from it. One of them was. So they're ready. So that is not all of the oil fields on Earth, obviously. Not even all of the large ones. That video would literally be forever. Kind of show you different examples of the different kinds of setup and infrastructure and that kind of stuff. We'll end here on the ever classic Canadian tar sands. Yeah, the tar sand. And let's zoom in for like the very end. Let's zoom in and actually look at some of the infrastructure. All right, you can see that huge thing there. That's one of the actual like excavators, and I think it might not be active. It doesn't look like there's any haul trucks around it. Let's at least try to find some haul trucks. There we go. There's some haul trucks. They're empty. That one's getting loaded up though. And that's an excavator there. You can't see its full like form because a lot of it's in shadow, but that haul truck's getting loaded up with tar sands, and these three are coming in to get loaded up. I absolutely love haul trucks. Haul trucks are like the coolest thing. But I think this video is long enough already, so I'll let you guys go. Not that I was keeping you trapped or anything. As always, if you enjoyed yourself, then like the video, share it around with anyone else who might. If you're into stuff like this at all, then subscribe and stick around, because there's always going to be more to come. I will see everybody around next time.